Oh my God. Oh, it's being recorded.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I have some very special guests with me here tonight. My two cousins, Tim and Pat. Today we are going to be talking about Indiana Jones. Tim, what's going on over
Hey, everybody.
there?
I'm glad to be back here with my brother and my cousin here. Good to see you all. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to have you back after we talked some Batman last time you were on.
Gotta love Batman. He's the best superhero. I was getting a debate in my students. Yes, our fellow listeners out there, I am a public educator. And I had a debate with some of my students about if Batman's a superhero or not. And I think you guys already know the answer that I would give.
Definitely.
You'd rather protect this vigilante than the lives of citizens?
Yeah, that's right. Vigilantism, baby.
Over on my top left, you folks know him. He's on like almost every single video now, hijacking this channel.
Listen, I'm just adding a little something, like a season 2 character.
Yeah, you're a recurring guest star at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm going to make you Lucas Luthor soon, though.
You should make me Lionel Luthor.
No, Lucas Luthor sucked. Wasn't he the guy who stuck on Smallville?
Okay, but he was only in one episode, and we're going to ask Michael Rosenbaum what happened to
him. He's coming to Comic-Con, so yeah. All right, so today's topic is going to be very, very fun. These are really fun movies we're going to talk about. There's a new 5th movie coming out next year. I've already started to review these movies. They're not live yet. But I'm going to be doing individual solo reviews for these movies as well. But I wanted to gather my two cousins here because they are both big Indiana Jones fans as well. So we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones with one of the most iconic theme songs and putting this in the background. Specifically, Temple of Doom.
Oh my God. That was a power move, man.
Cover that up.
So let's get into the first movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or as it has retroactively been retitled, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Don't like that.
Don't just Raiders of the Lost Ark to me. What do you guys think of Raiders of the Lost Ark? Pat, we'll start with you.
Raiders is a classic. It's one of the most influential action adventure movies of all time. It does a great job of introducing Henry Jones Jr. as a protagonist of this whole series. I mean, there's a reason it was so big and a big blockbuster movie that spawned this franchise. Just the combination of Steven Spielberg's directing with George Lucas's love for serialized just storytelling of that's what Star Wars was. That's what Indy is, where it's kind of. This is more of adventure serial where every movie's a different adventure, but all him traveling the world and getting into traps and different sorts of trouble. But yeah, the Raiders it's a classic movie. Everyone knows the boulder chasing him. Everyone knows the snake scene, the melting faces, the Nazis.
Belloc.
Yeah, it's gotta have the Nazis.
Oh, dude, Paul Freeman eating the fly in that one scene like it's nothing.
You're all of a sudden you got the Nazis as bad guys.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we used to think they were bad guys. Now there's good people on both sides. But I think Raiders I think Raiders did a good job. It's clear Nazis are the bad guys. So.
Yeah, exactly. This came out at a time, also before I get into you, Tim, where I feel like Spielberg was. I don't know, because I feel like nowadays, as much as I love Spielberg, I feel like he's a lot more restrained now. This is when he was getting down and dirty, shit was violent in this movie. Yeah. And I kind of miss that old side of Spielberg, and we don't see it all that much anymore. I mean, Ready Player One's probably his most violent film in years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, Tim, what are your thoughts on Raiders?
Well, where do I begin? I mean, I think Pat maybe mentioned, growing up, we had the trilogy on VHS. All you young people out there was something called VHS one time. And I mean, I always love Raiders. I think it's a classic. now it's funny. Now I look at it from a different perspective because I'm a teacher, and I love the fact that he's, a professor. He's an educator,
Yeah.
and he's going around the world like fighting Nazis and doing all sorts of weird stuff. But I think it was such an unbelievably great idea at the time. It was something very different at the time, especially when it came out, 1981. Like, I mean, there wasn't really anything quite like that.
Yeah.
And I think it opened the door for all sorts of like movies to come years after. Like I think of like growing up, like the Mummy, the first Mummy, I thought was a
Definitely.
really good
Definitely.
movie. Like growing up, and
Definitely.
you know, uh, Rick O'Connell, Brendan Fraser's character in that is like, I mean, he would not be a character if there wasn't an Indiana Jones all those years
Right.
before, in pop
Right.
culture and in film. But I think what Raiders does such a good job with is that, well, in the beginning, it sets you up. You're like, whoa, we're in South America. Like, what the heck's going on
Yeah, it's
here?
very like ambient, like ominous noises because they're in the forest, you know.
It sets you up. It sets you up right away to be really like, wow, what am I kind of getting into here? We're in South America.
In
There's this guy looking.
1936.
We're looking for this like gold head. We don't know what the heck that is. And then
Dr.
like,
Octopus is there.
yeah, exactly. Alfred
Yeah.
Molina is there. Like, who doesn't love Alfred Molina?
Yeah, he
Um,
double crosses Indy.
Double crosses him, but I think just the whole film, how they, and they bring his, girlfriend back, Marion, and
Oh, one of the best female characters in an action adventure film.
no, yeah, I agree. A lot better than the one in Temple of Doom. But so,
I'm not arguing with you on that, but we'll get to Temple soon.
but I just think what makes Raiders so great too. There's so many memorable scenes. Whether it's
Oh,
the beginning scene with the boulder, whether it's the fighting in Cairo where he's fighting the guy with the sword and he just shoots him,
yeah,
or they're in the desert there and they're looking for the ark, and his friend, Indy, why does the floor move? Like these are all scenes that like everybody remembers, who
you
at least.
can't you can't forget the iconic truck chase too.
Exactly, or the was it the Hall of Souls, or whatever it is? Yeah, where you got the snakes everywhere. I mean, it's so iconic.
Yeah,
Like I feel like it's so iconic that even if like young people today don't necessarily even know all the movies, like they could even be like, "Oh, I saw that on TV once. I saw,
yeah, exactly.
I saw all these snakes in this room." Like it is that iconic, and I mean, I wish I could go back in time and see it actually on the big screen. That's
I
one
feel
thing.
like I feel like they're gonna do a re-release when Indy 5 comes out. And I would love to see it in theaters. Like I would love to see these original three in theaters. The only one I've seen in theaters is the fourth one, unfortunately. But
With
yeah,
Shia.
yeah, with
Optimus,
Sam Witwer.
Optimus. Oh, wrong movie. Sorry.
No, I mean, just going back to some of those iconic scenes, I want to talk about the truck chase for a minute because, I mean, no matter your thoughts on Temple of Doom, we'll get into it. Um, these first three, Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, I think all three of these movies have three of the best action sequences ever put on film. Because you have the truck chase in this one, Temple of Doom, you have the minecart chase, and then Last Crusade, you have the tank chase. And all three of those are like the moments in the movies that stick out to me. Like I love the truck chase because how much it humanizes Indiana Jones as a character. The whole movie does it, but in that sequence specifically, like he's hanging from the back of the truck by his whip and he's being dragged under the truck. He gets shot in the arm and you just see the blood spray and all that. Like it's such an exhilarating and exciting sequence, and Spielberg knew how to film sequences like that back in the day. I feel like he kind of forgot how to nowadays, and that's not taking away anything from his directing ability because he's still a fabulous director. But it's just like I said, it's something from Spielberg that I miss, and honestly, like it's very influential as to how action sequences are filmed nowadays too.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too, you guys, just kind of starting off our conversation here about Raiders, is that Harrison Ford, growing up too, and I think Pat would probably second this. I mean, talk about being in two iconic series. I mean,
Star Wars and Indy.
Star Wars and Indiana Jones. I mean, when you think about that, it's kind of amazing even to think about, and the fact that he wasn't even going to be originally Indiana Jones.
He didn't want to be.
Yeah, and honestly, I can't picture anybody else being Indiana Jones. I guess that's easy to say, maybe, but like, I mean, I just can't. I mean, it's like Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones, and he is Han Solo. Like, I can't. I watched the new Solo movie. I thought it was trash because I can't see anybody else be Han Solo. It was garbage. I mean, Donald Glover was great as Lando, but I mean, like, no one else can be Harrison Ford. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Harrison. I guess I'm kind of open to the idea now that I've seen somebody else play Han Solo. So I'm like, okay, maybe somebody else could play Indiana Jones, and it's happened with the Young Indiana Jones TV show where Sean Patrick Flanery played a young Indiana Jones. So like, it's happened, but it hasn't happened in the movies, and I don't think it's going to happen in the movies now, especially with Kathleen Kennedy's most recent controversial comments.
What did she say?
She said they're not due to the failure of Solo. She blamed the failure of Solo on the fact that they recast Han Solo.
Well, so
they're mostly.
That's right. That's correct. Bingo. Sorry.
It seems like they're going to be leaning into what they're doing with Luke Skywalker in the shows, where you digitally recreate him. I mean, it's an option. It's a controversial option, but I mean, I think they've done overall a really good job, but it does raise like kind of questions about, actors versus technology,
Could you imagine Chris Pratt being Indiana Jones? Because that's going to happen at one point.
Yeah, him, Bradley Cooper. Yeah, no, I don't think
Bradley Cooper has the scruff, but he doesn't have the look,
No, in Indiana Jones, I feel like you'd have to cast a nobody. I don't think I would be too distracted if it was
like a Bradley Cooper or something.
Yeah, if it was Chris Pratt, I'd feel like it was Jurassic World I was watching.
What about Tom Hardy?
Is Indiana Jones in Jurassic World.
What about Tom Hardy or Denzel Washington? I think he'd be
Black Indy, sure. Let's do it.
An older Indy, maybe a more mature Indy.
How about The Rock?
You wanted older Indy, but you just wouldn't cast Harrison Ford.
Patrick Stewart, man.
Harrison Ford is old Indy now.
He's been so much. I mean, come on, give an older guy a chance. Another older guy.
Pat, any scenes in the movie that stick out for you? Because it's so iconic.
The first one, I used to get scared of the melting faces scene.
Oh yeah, I think everybody did.
But when I think of the first one, I really think of him running through the streets and like that iconic like standoff with him and the guy with the sword where he just whips out his gun and shoots him and walks away.
Do you guys know the story behind that?
No.
So it was originally supposed to be like an actual sword fight, but Harrison Ford had like bad food poisoning that day. So he was just like, I'm not feeling well enough to do this scene, so why don't I just take out my gun and shoot the guy?
I mean, it worked.
Yeah,
it's a classic little scene. Like,
yeah, it's the basket chase too is amazing. Also, the whole action scene in Marion Ravenwood's bar.
Yeah. I love his introduction in that scene.
You guys talk about the one in Nepal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where that bespectacled German Nazi comes in.
Nazi. I don't like Nazis. I'm not ashamed to say it.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Belloc as a villain? Tim, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm not a
he's a Nazi. Fuck him.
He's a collaborator, so I'm glad he gets killed in the end. Yeah. I think part of his character is really interesting. Like, don't get me wrong, guys. I don't think the actor does a bad job. I don't think the writing of the character is really bad or anything. I think what's interesting is kind of like seeing like an Indiana Jones on the other side, because he basically is like an Indiana Jones, but willing to like sell his soul to
factions. Yeah, it's like Indiana Jones with different motivations, different.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah.
And I think that part of his character is really interesting. I'll be honest with you, like, the character is just like, like, it's not like, it's not like one of those really memorable villains.
It's
Yeah.
not like Mola Ram. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
God. You know,
It's not like Falco in the fourth one.
yeah, you know, it's not like Kate Blanchett in the
Hey, keep Kate
Jane
Blanchett's
Winchester,
name out of
baby.
your mouth.
Keep her name out your fucking mouth.
Dude, Chris Rock handled that like a gentleman. But like, but back to Raiders. Like, I mean, Balak or Balosh, as the Germans call him, or whatever in the movie. I mean, I actually really okay. I don't think he's that memorable as a villain, but I do really like the scene, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about this when Marion and him. She's like, you know, they're doing the drinking thing. I for some reason I
That
think
scene's intense.
that scene is really well done because they already set that up in the beginning of the movie. Like she's a badass when it comes to like drinking games, and like he's like, oh, I can definitely out drink this girl, right? And it kind of plays off this like kind of sexist attitude. We're like, oh, you know, I'm gonna like, you know, get this girl to be with me, and I'm gonna show her what a great drinker I am. And she's just like, you know,
and she goes along with it too for a little bit.
And she like it totally like outsmarts him, you know. And I just love that scene.
What always used to get me when I was little is when Tote walked in and he whipped out like what looks like nunchucks, and I'm like, oh shit! But then it's like a coat hanger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one.
I also just love the. I mean, obviously, when it comes to movies, I think we all somewhat tend to criticize the amounts of exposition in movies sometimes, but I think Raiders has some of the best use of exposition. Whereas, like, you're like, sure, they're explaining a lot of stuff to you, especially this is like right after the opening where Indy's back at college, you know, teaching his class, and he's completely oblivious to all the girls that want to.
When they're like this.
Yeah, but he meets with Marcus Brody and those other two random dudes, and like you find out so much. Like, but like all of it's interesting. You're like, oh, the Staff of Ra, the Ark of the Covenant. Oh, there's this dude Abner Ravenwood. Oh, there's this map room. Like all of the like, and when you're hearing all of that's just like, okay, you're feeding me a lot of information right now that I need to retain, but it all sounds really cool and really interesting. And that's what I love like about Raiders. Like I think it does exposition in a way that really works. Like it doesn't feel like it's boring. It's not like Phantom Menace where they're just sitting around in a room and it's like, oh, I don't want to train the boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, at least like because even though they are kind of sitting around talking, like you're hearing things that's like, okay, that sounds interesting. I want to see where that goes. Well, and it leads to some interesting places later on.
Yeah, and I think too, and from a historical standpoint too, you know, the Nazis were actually looking for those type of things in the years leading to World War II. So I kind of like the fact that they like are taking aspects of like actual historical truth and then like making it also into this like incredibly iconic, you know, action.
Are you telling me Indiana Jones single-handedly beat the Nazi regime?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that and the Red Army. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. There is a point of contention, I guess, like for some people who love the movie, but have like a fault with the movie. I guess they see a plot hole, or at least like, I mean, maybe not a plot hole is the best way to describe it, but I've seen some people say if you take Indiana Jones out of this movie and replace him with some other random dude, or just don't have any other random dude at all, like the outcome of the movie is not going to change. The Nazis will still get the Ark of the Covenant, and they'll still open it, and the Well of Souls, and everything. What do you guys think on that? Because I think I really disagree with people who think that.
Go ahead, Pat.
Well, I mean, I can see where they're coming from because it's true that he does end. During the climax of the movie, he's a prisoner and he watches it happen, and they kill themselves essentially by accident. Yeah. And I don't think that would change. Like if they found it earlier, they still would have opened it. They still would have all had their faces melted off. But so see, I can see that argument.
I disagree though, because there's a point in the movie where they say the Nazis are digging in the wrong place, but only Indiana Jones knew where the actual map room was. So that gets me thinking, well, if people think that, like, would the Nazis actually have found the Ark of the Covenant since they are digging in the wrong place?
That's fair. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a fair point, but also at the same time, I I mean, you wouldn't have the great horse chase scene of the truck without Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
So
that's true. I mean,
just saying.
that whole truck chase is fucking amazing, dude.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I kind of like. I agree with Pat. I get kind of where they're coming from, but I kind of like the fact. And this is probably also one of my other favorite scenes of. I think one of the most iconic films of at least the 1980s, Raiders of the
Yeah.
Lost Ark.
Yeah.
I love the scene where he dresses up in the German military uniform and he grabs his rocket launcher,
Oh yeah, he points it at Belloc.
and Belloc is like,
Yeah. Well,
go ahead, Jones, blow it back to whatever.
well,
Go blow it back to
I
God.
love Indy's bluff in that scene. 'Cause he's like, "I'll blow up you, and I'll blow up the Ark of the Covenant. I don't give a shit."
But like Belloc knows that he also, as an archaeologist and
Yeah.
as a historian, he also wants to see that thing open.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I just love that scene where Indy's like, all I want is the girl,
Yeah.
And that whole scene, and you could just tell like Indy's like, oh shit, he's right,
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
and, and then at the end, we know what happens. But I
Yeah.
just love that scene because it's like if you were Indiana Jones, right? In that scene, of course, you hate the Nazis, and you want to get your girlfriend back, but at the same time, it's like, damn, I kind of want to see what happens here with the Ark of the Covenant opening. It's like, dang, like that's a tough decision, actually. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So we've talked about Harrison Ford in the role. What do you guys think overall of Indiana Jones as a character? I think this is one of the best, most fleshed out characters in all cinema history. Tim, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think. I think again for the time it was so unique.
Yeah.
Um, I like the fact again he's just kind of a normal guy. He's not some
Yeah.
kind of like
Exactly. He's not like
superhuman.
some superhero, you know?
Um,
He gets his ass beat a lot.
yeah, I
Yeah.
like I like the fact too that he's got like a lot of intelligence about him. He's a teacher. He's an archaeologist.
Yeah.
And I think they do a really good job in Raiders, like opening the character where you get a sense of like what he did even the years leading up to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Um, I I think they also just through the whole series too. Like I love the fact too, and I know we haven't got to the Last Crusade yet, but also like showing him as a young kid as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
and how all his whole development of the fear of snakes and everything else. But I think he's one of the most fascinating characters in cinema history, just because he's not like your typical like hero. He's like
Right.
this like college professor
Right.
who then on a long weekend will go to like Venice and
Risk his life,
fight
escape
the Nazis or
every
You call
situation.
this archaeology?
yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think what's also really great about the series is the time period,
Oh,
because I feel like that was really smart to put it in like the time period, the years like leading up to World War II, because there was like so much going on in the world and like so much going on with archaeology, but also just like other things. I thought that was really intelligent on George Lucas and Spielberg and everybody who made the movie and had took part in that. But I think what makes him so fascinating is that like he really could be one of us if
exactly.
we
Yeah.
went to school and decided to be a college professor. Like he's not, and don't get me wrong, it's not nothing against Superman, but he's not this you know alien from Krypton. I mean, he's just this dude from who's a teacher who's like, I'm gonna get my ass kicked every weekend
Yeah.
and try to make some money and like sell stuff at the museum. It's like you could see yourself doing that stuff.
Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
It's really like the first like I just kind of lost my train of thought. I guess it's really just a character that's a pure human being,
Mhm.
and that's what I love about Indiana Jones. And the fact that he's also oblivious to just all the women in his class, like how much they love him, and
Mhm.
he's just like, wait, what's going on, like it's just little subtleties in the character like that just boost the character significantly.
Big time.
Yeah, Pat, what about you?
I really like Indy. I mean, I don't think he's. I think what kind of along the lines Tim was saying, he's not really fleshed out a lot until Last Crusade. I think there's enough of him in his first two movies where you see like what kind of a person he is. You don't really know much about his past though.
Mhm.
I think though there's an undertone of that I think makes him a really good like character is that he makes mistakes. He's like not infallible.
Right.
I mean, there's an implication in this first movie that him and Marion initially shacked up when she was quite young,
Yep.
like a student, like
Mhm.
of his potentially.
Yep.
Like there's an implication that they had a relationship like when she was underage.
Mhm.
And that I think, you know, it's a fault. It's you wonder like is like how what is this guy really like? He's got these when like young girls like flirting with him. Like we don't know if he ever, you know, pursues his own students like in college and stuff. So um there's an undertone that I think is interesting about him that they never get into, but I think it is there. Where potentially he is kind of a dick sometimes. He is kind of, you know, impatient, pushy, and I think that all makes for a really well-rounded character. Like I think, like Tim was saying, he's a very smart guy. He's a book smart guy. He knows all sorts of historical facts and religious, you know, mythology, and he's a great character. He's just a wonderful hero, especially in that time period where like the heroes of the 80s were going to turn into like the Schwarzeneggers and the Stallones and those
Right.
types of people. But Indiana stands out in the same way that John McClane stands out, where you're just watching a guy go through hell and continue to get back up again. And that's what makes him admirable.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. You hit all my points on the money. So before we wrap up Raiders, I want to just bring out one more point. Going back to the influence on Raiders, I mean, without Raiders, I don't think you would have something like Uncharted or
Yeah.
Tomb Raider or National Treasure or
Nope.
anything like that. Like even Pirates of the Caribbean, you probably wouldn't have. Indian. That's just how influential Raiders of the Lost Ark was.
It popularized the adventure quest type movies with like little supernatural elements thrown in as well.
Yeah, and it's all done magnificently well by Spielberg, and it's well written by Lawrence Kasdan, and story by George Lucas, who came up with a great character and great story. So, on a A to F scale, what would you guys give Raiders of the Lost Ark, Pat?
I'm gonna give it an A.
Nice. Tim?
I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I think it's really well done. I mean, it's a movie that as a kid, I can still watch it anytime. You know, that's when I know it's really a great film. Is like it doesn't matter, uh, you know, when you could just if it's on TV, you're like, oh yeah, I could watch this right now. And that's Raiders is definitely a movie like that for me. Like whenever it's on, like I can put it on and watch it whenever. So yeah, I'd say 9 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go A plus for Raiders. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Just I can't find a flaw with the movie. I don't like. It's like Last Crusade. You know, I can't find a flaw with the movie.
Mm.
All right, so that wraps up Raiders of the Lost Ark, and now we get
Here we go.
into
Here we go.
we get into Temple of Doom. I really love this movie.
Alex, okay. So, as you, obviously from this setup right here, there's been some discussions prior to this video, but we haven't really gotten into it. Alex, just for the record, is Temple of Doom on the same level in your mind as Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So you think that Tim is definitely, just based on his reaction, definitely disagrees. I'm probably somewhere in the middle, I suppose, for you two. But yeah, just so we're all clear.
This is gonna. I'm not gonna need to find new cousins after this, am I?
No, no.
All right. Yeah. So Temple of Doom was released in 1984, and actually is the second movie in the Indiana Jones series, but acts as a prequel to Raiders, taking place in 1935.
But does it though?
Not really. No.
It doesn't really need to be beforehand.
Who gives a shit?
People call it a prequel, but it doesn't really set up anything.
Who cares?
Wait, I thought it takes place in 1937. It's a prequel?
It's a
Yes,
prequel.
1935. Yeah. Raiders takes place in 1936.
What? I thought it was okay. Wow.
There you
I
go.
hate it more. I hate it even more than now.
It starts at everybody's favorite club in Indiana Jones, Club Obi-Wan.
Not my favorite. Not my favorite club.
Anything goes.
Oh, God. Oh.
Okay, in the 7 minutes that we have remaining before we get kicked out and I have to send another email link back, I will explain why Temple of Doom is great. Okay, this embraces a little bit of a campier side of Indiana Jones, which I really love, especially the beginning. Like the opening with Club Obi-Wan, them getting on the plane, them falling out of the plane in the raft, going down a snowy mountain, all fucking awesome. I love it.
I was with you on the club part.
Hey, if Return of the Jedi can have cute, fuzzy, crime-fighting teddy bears,
that's Star Wars. That's a different franchise.
That's a
that's sci-fi fantasy.
No, I mean, I don't really know what it is. Like something these past couple of watches of Temple of Doom just really clicked with me. I mean, I think the problem is with a lot of people with Temple of Doom, probably not you guys.
Everything.
No, I think I'm sick of it being called the bastard child of the original trilogy. That's for sure.
Well, it is. I mean, it is.
Even Spielberg agrees that it is.
Yeah, I mean, the man who made the movie agrees with that, Alex.
It's still great, okay? I don't fucking care. Like, I don't care that the Temple of Doom comes in halfway through the movie. I don't care if the Shikari stones aren't as interesting as the Ark of the Covenant. I don't care if Willie is somewhat annoying, but then in the second half, she's not as annoying in the second half. And when
wait, hold on. Did you just say somewhat annoying?
Hey, when she's annoying in the second half, she has every right to be annoying in the second half. She's about to be sacrificed. She has every right to scream for the first half, yeah, I'll give it to you. I mean, like, I'm not saying she's Marion Ravenwood or even Elsa Schneider here, because she's not.
Alex, you're no nuts. You crazy.
But
no,
okay,
you're not convincing anybody here.
Just like Sophie Marceau balances out Denise Richards, and The World Is Not Enough, Short Round balances out Willie in this movie. Dude, okay, and the problem, you may think Willie's annoying, but the movie at least addresses that. Like, Indiana Jones literally tells her to her face, like,
that doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't, but you know what? At least the movie.
Like Jar Jar. They treat Jar Jar as being annoying in Phantom Menace. Doesn't mean he's any less annoying to the audience. Fine then. Name another Indiana Jones movie that has a theme park ride named after it, huh?
We're talking about the film. We're not talking about theme rides here, son.
Hello, the minecart chase. Hello.
The minecart is phenomenal. Okay, without the
best action scene in the entire series.
No, it isn't. Come on.
Yes, it is.
Come on. No,
minecart chase is great. Without it, I would never have had Donkey Kong Country on Super Nintendo.
Okay,
100%.
It's great. Short Round's great. Where the fuck was Short Round in Last Crusade, huh?
Where's Short Round in any of them? He should be in the successor, goddammit.
He was in the Goonies, man. He was in the Goonies.
Yeah, but
and then he pieced out of Hollywood, and then now he's back.
He is? Oh.
Yeah. He came back.
Okay, Alex, so I'm not convinced yet. Can you still work on that convincing part?
No, I mean, I don't know what it is. Like with Temple of Doom, I don't know. Something just clicked. I was like, this still feels like a really like fun Indiana Jones adventure. Like, sure, it's Indiana Jones not going up against the Nazis. It's him just on this random side quest in India. But you know what? Like, it's still super fun. Like, I like, people say this movie's violent. I don't think it's that violent. I mean, the most violent scene is somebody's
he rips the heart out of a man's chest.
Alex, this movie invented a new rating.
PG-13.
I know.
That's what it gave the world. PG-13 rating. That's all it gave the world.
I am more scared. I am more scared
of
the heart getting ripped out in this movie.
They have a more mature rating because of this movie.
Also, the sequence, in the Maharaja's palace where they're like in the wall and like Willie has to reach in with all the bugs. That scene is great. I love that scene too.
Yeah.
Mola Ram.
Awful. awful.
Decent, not a great villain. Decent.
How about a terrible?
I'll just say those crocodiles were hungry though.
Oh my god!
I'll give you this. Mola Ram is definitely more memorable than Belloq.
Belloq, yeah.
Okay, I used to think Mola Ram was the dude from the first Scooby-Doo movie.
It's not.
No.
This is what we people say. Classic. We should talk about those movies with Tim.
Yeah.
You're not convincing me here, Alex.
Well, I don't have to convince you, okay? It's all opinion based here. But no, I mean, I don't know. I think getting away from the Nazis for one movie, I think it proved that you don't have to have an Indiana Jones movie with religious artifacts, Nazis, and stuff like that. It did something different with Indiana Jones, and I really appreciate it for that, while also retaining the classic Indiana Jones feel.
Crystal Skull did something different too. Did you appreciate
Yeah, but it
that?
doesn't feel like Indiana Jones. That's the thing.
Huh.
We'll get into it when we get to Crystal Skull, and I'll explain why. But at least, like I still feel like the core of Indiana Jones is still in Temple of Doom. So that's my 2 cents on the movie. I've really come around to really loving it. I mean, as much as Raiders and Last Crusade, it's just damn fun. Like when I'm having this much fun watching a movie, as like the other two, goes by super quick. Just like Raiders and Last Crusade, which is something I wanted to bring up in Raiders. All these movies are like 2 hours. They all feel like they're 45 minutes because they go so quick. Same with Temple of Doom, the same way. I don't know. Like the minecart chase has always been my favorite action sequence of the entire series. It's just so much fun. And I appreciate that Lucas and Spielberg did something different, even if it tormented Spielberg inside. All right.
Even if it made me couldn't sleep for the next 5 years.
Flippers is making a continuity error here. He's suddenly going to appear.
All right. So those are my thoughts on Temple of Doom. Let's get into Tim's thoughts on Temple of Doom.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Brace yourselves.
Are you sure you want this, listeners? Look, like I said in the last section, I am a huge Indiana Jones fan. I grew up with the films. I mean, I watched the films all the time growing up as a kid. I think Temple of Doom is garbage. And here is why. Okay? Everything that went well and worked great in Raiders was just abandoned. Okay? We have a completely different geographical location, which is fine. Okay. We have incredibly annoying damsel in distress who is nothing like Marion's character in the first
She's
film.
not supposed to be.
So, who is annoying as hell. The only reason why Spielberg had her in the film, because they started dating or whatever during the film, the actress. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3, the cultural appropriation in that film is appalling, where they make all the Indian people look like inferior, as well as Asian people inferior in China, where they are in the beginning of the film. Okay? I have no idea why they change Indiana Jones from like an actual realistic type character to, we're going to fall off this airplane and somehow land on Mount Everest, and we're still all alive.
Why
and
can't
then fall down this mountain into this river. I mean, that's.
I'd rather that than them go down like 3 different tree branches in Crystal Skull and survive.
We're not talking about Crystal Skull. We're talking about Temple of Doom.
Comparing 2 separate movies in the same series.
So that whole thing is ridiculous. How they
awesome. Get out of here. We're no longer cousins. See ya.
It's like it's not even remotely close to what they established with the character in the first film. Okay, the whole time, Short Round is Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones, Dr.
Yeah,
Jones.
he's the man.
And then he got the lady, whatever her name is, okay, because she's not
really.
All she says is ah, the whole movie, which blows. Okay, I want to
The second, like I said, the second half, it's called for because she's legitimately gonna die and be sacrificed.
I wish
I'm
I
not
was Helen
annoyed
Keller
by her
watching
at
this
all
movie.
in the second half.
Temple of Doom makes me wish I was Helen Keller. Okay, so
Oh my god.
okay, so continue on with the film. Then they go to the palace. They're eating snake. Okay, they're eating monkey brains. I mean, it's such a like.
It's something different.
Yeah, but different doesn't mean necessarily good either,
No,
Al.
it doesn't. It doesn't, but it works well in this movie.
And then all of a sudden, they try to make we're all the bug scene here like a cool thing, like the snake thing in the Hall of Souls, which just did not live up to, like they have the rat scene in Last Crusade. That is cool. Okay. The bug scene just, I mean, trying too hard with the bugs, number one. Then you get to the whole point where they finally say, oh, this guy is getting his heart ripped out. The villain is not memorable at all. He's got that big thing he puts on his head. I mean, okay. And then, Indy like goes evil because they hit him with whatever.
It's voodoo.
It's just, none of it makes sense. It's all over the place. It's like they were trying too hard to make it a darker. Oh, we got to always have the middle of the film darker than the original film. Okay. It's like, and then it's all crazy where it's like, oh, now Indy's back. And now, oh, she's going here in this cave. Now she's going back up. Now she's going back down. And then he's like, Dr. Jones. And then he freaking burns him. All of a sudden, he's back to normal. And then all you get the whole rest of the film is them just running around in caves and then fighting crocodiles. And they're on the.
They don't fight crocodile. What the fuck are you talking about?
They're on the bridge at the end.
They fight the thuggy yet. No, they fight on the bridge and they fall into the river below where there are crocodiles.
Nobody remembers that scene.
One of the crocodiles does a 360 because he's so hungry when he eats.
Alex, the whole point of the movie is like, oh, Harrison Ford, he needed to have a shirtless scene in this film, so we got to make sure he works out a lot and he's more buff than he was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's the whole point of the film. Just Indy running around with like no shirt. He's like, blah, blah, blah. I mean, like, there's no other point to the film besides look how Jack Harrison is.
I'm a straight man. If I were gay, I would love that.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's the whole point of the film. What is the point? Besides it, look, Harrison was in the gym a lot for this film. I mean,
the point, like I said, the point of the movie is to prove to us that Indiana Jones had adventures before Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it didn't necessarily always involve the Nazis. There were other things that Indiana Jones.
That's all you have. That's your whole point.
The point of the movie is no Nazis.
The point of the movie is no Nazis equals bad in this case.
Yeah, but you have Short Round, who's awesome.
No, he's just as annoying as.
How dare you? You apologize to K.Y. Kwan right now?
No, I will not, because the whole movie is Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones, Dr. If I had to hear Dr. Jones one more time,
without Short Round, Indiana Jones would not have survived this movie. You can thank Short Round for that.
Trash. Just total trash. I mean, okay. One last thing, then Pat, you can go. Okay, and I've been easier than even I was going to be. The fact that Steven Spielberg, one of the all-time, in my opinion, I think we can all agree on this, my cousins and my cousin and brother, Steven Spielberg, you could argue, is one of the best directors of all time in film history. Easily,
I think he is.
You can argue that. Okay. He himself said that this was the worst film out of the three.
He also hated Hook. Does that make Hook a bad movie?
No, but okay.
Phenomenal.
But he even said he had the least fun on this film because it was crap. His words, crap. I remember him saying that in an interview. He said,
where'd you find the interview? Out your ass?
I need a source for this.
Give us. Where's your bibliography? Give me your works cited page.
Yeah. Where's your? I need annotated sources and.
But if Steven Spielberg is saying that says a lot. Let's just put. That's where I'm going to end. Boom. Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah. So I do not dislike this movie like Tim does. I don't love this movie like Alex does. Temple of Doom to me has always been a weird one where it's like I kind of dig some of the vibes. I kind of dig like, okay, we're going kind of weird into places we don't usually get to see, and it's darker, there's less like humor. You're kind of in a more serious situation at times. There's literally like a gateway to hell at one point, which is like, what? The problem I have with this movie, and while I appreciate they tried to do something different, they tried to give it a different spin, it's not nearly as fun to watch as the rest of them, except Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but the original trilogy, because it feels claustrophobic. And if there's one thing an Indiana Jones movie shouldn't be, it's claustrophobic. I want to be going on a journey, a globe-trotting adventure, looking for artifacts, fighting people, whipping around, being awesome. And
Yeah.
this whole movie, I mean, in the beginning they kind of travel a little bit, but
No artifacts.
once they're well, there's the stones, I guess. But once they get to like the mansion and then the temple, it's just one dark corridor after another dark corridor and a mine cart place like next to another mine cart place
This
and a
is amazing.
sacrificial place and the rock monster demon face and whether you put the stones. It's like, okay, it's just it's so small scale and like not in a good way. It's like in a closed off way where I just feel like I'm not enjoying myself as much because there's not as much stuff to look at. It's just very like dour and like not visually interesting. And when you get to like the bridge at the end, I like that scene because I go, "Oh, thank God, the sky I can see again." Like we're outside finally. But I
Okay.
don't think the stones are as interesting of a MacGuffin.
No,
as,
I agree.
No.
Like they're not as interesting of a MacGuffin as the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. As I
Thank
stated
God.
before, Willie is nowhere near as good of a character as
well,
or
here's,
else Schneider.
here's the problem though. Here's the problem though. Indiana Jones is centered on the MacGuffin. Like that is the
Yes.
anchor of these films.
Yep.
The search for the Ark is every action scene is built to lead to those to the Ark. The Holy Grail, all those amazing scenes we're going to talk about were with searching and discovering and clues, and there's none of that here. They go to where
Nothing.
the stones are and they
Nada.
find the stones, and then there's a ritual, and it's just
Ugh.
not. They tried to do something different, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was entirely unsuccessful, but I don't think. I think it's what I can't put it on the same pedestal as I put 1 and 3 because those movies just feel so much larger, so much more fun, so much more interesting. And this one is just kind of a darker sequel that it tries to do something different, but it just doesn't hit the same way for me. Like I like Short Round. I'll disagree with Tim. I think he's a great sidekick. I think he's fun. I wish he took over for Indiana Jones instead of whoever's going to take over for Indiana Jones instead of setting up Mutt Williams. It should have been him as like a 20, 30-year-old coming back to help Indy. Like, I like him. I hate Lily, so want to go 100% on Tim's side with that. I think she's a terrible, terrible female character.
Thank you.
Just awful. Like awful. Reinforces a lot of damsel in distress qualities that I just
It reinforces a lot of sexist stereotypes,
especially after Marion in the first one. It's like where she was like they tried to make it seem like she's a damsel, but she can handle herself and shit. Like this was such the opposite to that it's like insulting.
Yep.
But I mean, I think Spielberg even said, this movie was more difficult because it's your underground. It's hard. It's not as interesting to make. Like it's just, and I agree with him. I just think it's not as fun to watch. I love the Club Obi-Wan sequence. I like the parts when they're not. I don't like the raft falling out of the plane, but I like the parts where we're not stuck underground, like watching people. Like I'm just not into that. Like I just don't think that's that interesting. It's different, sure, but like it's such a departure. And like I said, the MacGuffins aren't fun or interesting, or like it's just not. It's not as fun. And yes, Indy saves the kids and all that. The kids were missing.
Yeah,
but
it's a better Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome movie than Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome was.
Sure, but the first half of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is better than this movie.
Oh, shots fired. I will say, okay, I wanted to add on to what Pat was saying real quick, and we'll move on. I didn't even think about it, but he's absolutely right. Like the things that I love about Last Crusade and Raiders, it's almost like a detective story in a sense too. Your clues, you're finding, we found this clue. There's none of that in Temple of Doom. There's none of that aspect of him like searching. Oh shit, this clue goes to another clue, and there's none of that at all.
He gets there immediately.
and it's just I feel suffocated while I'm watching it too. And I haven't watched it probably in 15 years, but I'm not going to waste 2 hours of my life again. So
Just remember, next time you come over, on one side of the TV, you'll see a James Bond poster. On the other side of the TV, you're going to see a Temple of Doom poster.
what? Okay, here's the question though: what James Bond poster? It's not like
if I can show it real quick, it's
not in Her Majesty's Secret Service, right?
no, it's a poster of all 25 of them.
All right. Well, who's going to be the next one? Who's going to be the next Bond?
We don't know. We won't know for a long time.
Short round.
Denzel Washington, baby, as an older Bond.
I would definitely go for Ke Huy Quan to come back. Especially since he was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he was awesome.
But who was he in Goonies? His name was Data, I remember.
He was one of the kids in Goonies. Like he was essentially playing Short Round in Goonies.
He set up a lot of. He had the booby trap like thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie forever. See, the Goonies also wouldn't have happened without Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened without Raiders, though. Not Temple of Doom.
The Goonies, I'm glad we brought this up. The Goonies is better at a small scale little mystery search than Temple of Doom is. That also is a movie where we end up in a cave, but that's a better one.
I love the Goonies, but you're wrong.
No, there's so many better characters in the Goonies. Josh Brolin's in the Goonies.
Yeah, I mean, you got the woman who looks like a man in the Goonies.
Have any regrets? Third grade.
You got
Dude, I'm sorry, Alex. The Goonies is a lot better than Temple of Doom.
Goonies is great. I love the Goonies. Yeah. I love it so much. I upgraded from Blu-ray to 4K. So
yeah, that's when that's in Alex's top tier.
Alex, you know that pretty soon there'll be no more DVDs or anything.
There will be in Alex's treasured library of films.
Yes.
During the apocalypse, I'm going to go to Alex's place, and I'm going to be able to watch movies I love, even though the internet's gone. I'm going to be able to go there.
Temple of Doom will still be around.
Once the aliens arrive or zombie apocalypse and the internet goes down, we'll have to go to Alex's apartment to watch all.
It's going to be films. A sacred temple of film.
Yeah. All right. So, what would you guys give Temple of Doom on a letter or grade scale? Tim, I know you're giving it an F, so you don't.
Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead. You go first, Pat.
I'd give Temple of Doom a B. I think it's a good movie. It's fine. It's just I don't think it's nearly as good as the first and the third.
Rigged. Totally rigged.
Tim, are you giving it an F?
No, I would say I'd give it a D-. I mean, there's a.
What's the one redeeming quality?
Harrison Ford, probably.
You say anything nice about it.
I'll give you the one redeeming quality. Thank God Harrison Ford did it. If Harrison Ford wasn't Indiana Jones, that movie would definitely be an F. If that was Tom Selleck or whoever else they wanted to be Indiana Jones, that would have been an F. I give it a D- just because Harrison Ford is a great actor. I mean, he is. So I would just give it D- because of Harrison.
A+. I don't care.
A+?
I don't. I get what you're saying, where it feels.
What the hell? I mean, if you said a B+, I'd be like, okay, A+.
I told you, I unabashedly love it. I'm giving a sneak preview. I'm giving all three of these original ones A+.
Wait, you're not giving the fourth one an A+?
We'll get to that one.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into Last Crusade. I don't know. I always go back and forth as to which one I like more, Raiders or Last Crusade. I think you guys have your minds made up. I'm leaning now towards Last Crusade, I think. And it's mostly because it's Han Solo and James Bond teaming up on a mission.
I thought you were going to say Temple of Doom. I really did. I thought you were going to
Pick me.
Go ahead, Pat. You go first.
Yeah, you go
This is the best Indiana Jones movie by a mile. I don't care about you Raiders purists, okay? Last Crusade is far superior to Raiders of the Lost Ark. I will die on this hill. I will fight people with Sean Connery's pigeon umbrellas. I will fight people to the death, okay? Last Crusade is everything Raiders is, but better and with an actual emotional core to it. It makes Indiana Jones an actual character. It has Sean freaking Connery. The Nazis are more
dude, when you think about it, sorry to interrupt you for a minute. When you think about it, like Harrison Ford, like as a casting choice, it's like, okay, that's great. But then you have Harrison Ford and Sean Connery.
The only person that could be Indiana Jones's dad is James Bond. And also,
Yeah, I think
Indiana
you're right about
Jones
that.
comes face to face with Adolf fucking Hitler in this movie, and it's one of the funniest and most intense scenes in all of cinema.
I agree. It's a great scene.
This is a beautiful film. This is top 25 films of all time right here.
Wow.
Okay.
Dang. Okay.
You know what? I'm not going to disagree. So is in Raiders and Temple.
People go.
Oh God. Oh God.
People,
2 out of those 3.
When I
You
put
just
out
blew
my
your
list
whole,
of
you blew
top
your whole list with Temple.
250 films of all time, I will make sure Temple is there.
People hold Raiders to the higher pedestal because it came first. But I'm here to tell you, just because you're first, don't mean you're best. You can perfect.
If you're not first, you're last, as Rick Bobby once said.
I always thought Raiders, I was always more interested in the story of Raiders, like the Ark of the Covenant, and like how we had like the map room and the Staff of Ra. And there's some background with Marion Ravenwood, like her father, Abner Ravenwood. But in terms of like pure entertainment, Last Crusade.
This is the better story because, listen, Indiana Jones, like Raiders of the Lost Ark is the classic. We go from point A to point B to point A to point B, and we eventually get to what we're looking for. This is that. But the whole time, you have the conflict of Indiana's internal struggle of, am I Indiana Jones or am I just Henry Jones Jr.? And my dad doesn't like me. And he should have left it with the Marx Brothers. This is a fucking great film.
Just to quote Sean Connery in this movie, okay? Since you guys weren't huge on Temple of Doom, bashful blasphemy.
Listen,
Sean Connery wasn't in that movie for a reason, because he probably looked at the script and said, "This is crap."
This is a perfectly balanced movie. It has just the perfect amount of heart, the perfect amount of action, the perfect amount of humor. Marcus Brody getting lost is one of the funniest scenes of all time.
Dude, they actually gave Marcus Brody something to do in this.
Yeah.
That is a good scene.
And then Sala comes back too. We didn't even talk about Sala.
Alex, you don't have a dog in Beantown, do you?
No. I wish. Yogi's gonna make a guest appearance here.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah.
Last Crusade is a masterpiece. Okay, it's a masterpiece, and I'm
not disagreeing with you at all.
No blasphemy.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree either.
I can't. We can't. Like this original trilogy is just so goddamn good.
Well, 2 out of 3. 2 out of 3 are really good. Yeah,
the opening of the movie.
Yeah, like how they had because Harrison Ford has a scar on his chin, so they literally wrote that into Indiana Jones's character, like how he got the scar on his chin.
Yep.
That could be.
It belongs in a museum.
So do you. So do you. I remember we had all 3 of the VHS tapes.
I never had them on VHS. I only got the DVD collection.
I
was kind of a late bloomer to Indiana Jones. I think I saw them when I was like 10 or 11 for the first time.
Jeez, wow, that's messed up.
Hey, at least I didn't wait till I was like 20, okay?
Yeah.
Just like, this movie is so quotable. Like, shit, like, how do you know? She talks so much shit.
Dad, what? Dad, what? Dad,
he's like, I love this. I love it. He says, "Well, I'm human, just like the next man. You were the next man."
It's just, dude, the relationship between Indiana and his father is the defining thing of this movie.
When Indiana Jones kills, when Indy kills all the guards, and then Sean Connery is looking at them like, "What did you do?"
So the best is when they're in the plane and he's shooting the machine gun and he accidentally shoots their own tailwind. They got us. Classic.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like they
call this archaeology.
Yeah, I don't know if they wrote the script before they were getting Sean Connery, but they're like, I bet you once they got Sean Connery, they were like, all right, rephrase every word that begins with an S in the script so that we can give Sean Connery S's and H's. You know.
I just realized my thought. So the flashback, what makes it so good, because it could fall into the prequel trap, which is, oh, we have to see how he got to exactly where he is all in the span of 10 minutes. This is how he got a scar. This is why he used a whip. This is where he got his hat. Like,
It's almost too much. It's almost too much. Yeah.
we could fall into that trap. That happens all the time in movies, like Solo. That happened with Solo.
Yep.
Like, you
Crap.
don't need to
Crap.
see someone's entire thing happen to them all at
Yeah, I
once.
don't need to know why Han Solo is called Han Solo.
But the reason it works so well is because the point of that flashback isn't just to show, like, oh, this is how Indiana was as a kid. This is where he got his fear of snakes and stuff. Like, it shows all that, but it's really about how he operates compared to his father, who's sitting in his study, like researching and stuff, and he does not give a shit about what's going on with Indiana, where there's freaking
Cross of Coronado,
like thieves trying to come after him, and the coolest dude ever. Okay, that one guy who gives Indiana Jones his hat, I don't know why, but he just inexplicably the coolest dude in film. I'm like, I don't know who you are, but I want to break. Like, who are you?
I love that too, because it's like the thief is like, oh, the thief caught him, but he gives him his hat as like a sign of respect, like, you know. It's awesome. And then before you had to go take care of Yogi, me and Tim were talking about it belongs in a museum.
Classic lines, guys. Like Last Crusade. I think I've made it clear. This is by far to me
it's the most quotable Indiana Jones.
The pinnacle of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Tim, what about you?
I mean, there's no disagreement here with me. I think what my brother may be quite shocked about is that I mean, I think I'm probably thinking more about just the trilogy, well, the original trilogy, you know, historically speaking. I think for a while I was kind of, well, you know, Raiders is the original, and it's you know, the best because it's the original.
It was proof. It was proof. It was proof a newer installment in a franchise could be better than the original.
Yeah, and I think, well, I love Raiders.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's one of the best action adventure films ever made.
Yeah.
But in recent years too, and I just recently rewatched. I didn't watch Temple of Doom because I didn't want to waste my time. But I rewatched Raiders and Raiders and Last Crusade again, and just really again having a really open mind. And I think I would say that Raiders is still to me the most iconic of films. But I will say that I think the more I've watched it, and the more I've thought about it, I do think Raiders has a more Last Crusade has a more interesting story, and just kind of like thinking about a man's relationship with his father, right? And just from that perspective of Indiana Jones, kind of like almost what I love about the film, and again, Sean Connery, rest in peace, best James Bond, was perfect for the role of Henry Jones. And I feel like, but that for me, it's a much more relatable story, and it's a much more like heartfelt story.
Yeah.
Where it's both, you can tell in the film and with the way it's written, all these adventures, right, that Indiana Jones has been on, all these things he's done, all these things he's seen in his crazy life, he still regrets his relationship with his father. Like he didn't have a better relationship with him. Yeah. So I really like that aspect of it, and the fact too, like you can tell, even though he doesn't want to admit it, like they both don't want to admit it, that they both wish they had a better relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And I love that scene in Last Crusade where they're on the Zeppelin and they're both drinking scotch.
No ticket.
Yeah, they're both drinking scotch with each other, and he's like, "Do you remember the last time, Dad, we sat together and had a drink like this and blah blah blah?" And I feel like so many people can relate to that, just like in the world, like like
I'm with you there. I'm also a huge fan of the scenes where they're at odds, like after the awesome motorcycle chase, when they're arguing about, oh, they got to go to Berlin because Marcus is there, and then because he has the map, and then it's like, no, like Sean Connery's like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, but Marcus has the map.
Yep.
Yeah, like just moments like that just flesh out both the characters so much more.
So what I love about go ahead, Pat. Go ahead.
What I love about this is like what Tim was going off what Tim was saying. the movie, like with Raiders, they open the Ark, they realize that was a bad thing, so the Ark gets put into storage and stuff. Sure. This movie, they get to the Holy Grail, they lose the Holy Grail, but they find out that the real thing they were searching for was understanding one another. It wasn't
Yeah.
about,
Yeah,
it wasn't
especially when
really about the
yeah,
Grail. The
especially
Grail was a symbol
especially
for his father.
yeah, especially when Indy's father is like, "Let it go."
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think kind of what you both are saying. I think I've started to. It's taken me a long time because I am one of those people who really do like the original like iconic films of series. Like um, I do think there is a more complex and more relatable and even enjoyable script and story Last Crusade than there is in Raiders. I think they're both excellent films, but I think Crusade does a really good job of building off of Raiders and giving us a window even into the more complex kind of history of Indiana and his family. We don't know when his mother passed away,
Right.
but I think I'm also the older I get, I kind of like that aspect too, where it's like his mother passed away. We don't know if he was really young. I mean, we know in the beginning of Last Crusade, he's like, what, 18, 19 years old, and his mother's already gone.
Yeah.
So we don't know that whole aspect of it. And I think what I love about the more and more I watch The Last Crusade is that Indy's character is, well, he feels he wants his father to pay more attention to him.
Mhm.
You can tell, like, in that scene in the beginning where he's like, "Hey, Dad," and he's like, quiet boy, he's like, recite it in Greek, and he's like, he's trying to tell his dad something. His dad's like, kind of like, hey, hold on here, I have to finish my diary here. And like,
Oh,
and I feel like, I don't know, like thinking more and more about like just growing up as a kid, like you always wanted to have a good relationship with both your parents too, but like there's a special bond, always a special bond with like a young man and his mom, but also a special and just as special bond with a young man and his father. So the older I get, uh, I don't know. I'm beginning to think Crusade. I mean, they're both great films, but I think overall as a story, Crusade has a better overall story than Raiders of the Lost Ark. But I think again, just Raiders is so iconic because it like starts the whole thing. It starts the whole franchise. But yeah, the more I watch it, I think I'm starting to feel more and more like Last Crusade has probably the best script and probably overall is the best film out of
yeah.
well, I mean, out of all of them.
Yeah, it just really hits you too in like certain scenes. Like after the awesome tank chase, like where Indy actually goes over the cliff with the tank, and then everybody's looking over the cliff. There's no music.
I love that.
Yeah, there's no music. Like you legitimately think Indiana Jones died.
Yeah, and I think the other scene that I really like too is and I mean I can stay on a little bit longer too than 9:30, but I uh I love too where it's like when his father gets shot
Yeah,
and now he has to basically have faith in what his father for so many years has documented, has worked for, has you know
Neglected him for.
yeah, and like studied, and he now has to believe the way his
right,
father believes.
right,
I think
right.
that is such a like a great twist of the story where Indy's like, my God, for years my dad cared more about these dead people, the people that have been dead for 800 years,
Yeah,
than me, and now I have to like basically take a page out of his book to save his life, really,
yeah,
in a sense.
yeah.
And you don't have that complexity in Raiders.
Right.
It's
And
a
I
little more simplistic in Raiders, the way like kind of towards the end where it's like, okay, we're opening the arc and we're gonna see what happens.
yeah,
But and which is great, but Raiders you have so much more I mean, I'm sorry, in Crusade you have so much more complexity between the characters and their interactions, especially at the end where I feel like it all kind of comes together.
mhm,
And so I don't know. I've been kind of in more recent years starting to think more and more like Raiders will always be the most classic for me.
yeah.
But the more and more I've been watching and thinking about, I think Crusade probably is the best overall
I
film.
think I'm starting to fall into that camp too, where I think Raiders is the more iconic one, but
Yep.
Crusade's the better film overall.
Mhm.
And just to go back to like Sean Connery as Henry Jones for a minute, you can like that they're at odds. Like they have different styles of like operating, but I also love how Indy becomes more like his father, like you were just kind of alluding to, Tim. But also his father becomes more like him.
Mhm.
Especially that scene with the umbrella where he's like, I forgot my Charlemagne. Oh, the birds in the sky, and like the look Indiana Jones gives him, like it's like,
Yep.
where the hell was this guy my whole life? You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So like that really shows that Henry Jones Sr. was becoming more like his son.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
And when I
The only thing I think I could pinpoint as being somewhat forgettable is I always forget who the villain is in this movie
How dare you?
until I see Julian Glover pop up. I forget his name. What's his name? Donovan?
General Veers.
his name's Donovan, yeah, in the film. He's an American working for the Nazis. Oh, we got those people in Congress.
Crustados from For Your Eyes Only.
And also Archmaester Pycelle in Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Yeah, Julian Glover. Yeah, I feel like he had a lot of these roles in the 80s where it was like, oh, he was built up to be a good guy, and then halfway through they do the bait and switch. He's the bad guy.
Not General Veers.
No. Well,
was
no, I
always
said in the 80s though.
Yeah, Empire Strikes Back was 1980.
That was 1980, man.
No. Shit, he was in that, huh?
Yeah,
he was in the Walkers. General Veers on Hoth.
He was the guy with the helmet on Hoth shooting at all the ice and
Shit.
stuff.
Shit. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean that's like the one thing, but it's sticking with me the more and more I watch Crusade, you know. So
Yeah, I think just the last kind of thing I want to say too is just I, it's such a it's got a good message too about just like coming together. It has a big message about like family too. Like no matter what happens, like you're still family.
and it's proof too that like your family isn't just your immediate family, like it's your
Yeah,
friends too. You
yeah,
got
sure.
Marcus Brody and Sala there too.
Yeah, exactly. And like that family is not necessarily just blood,
Right.
right? Family can mean so many different things, right?
Mhm.
But again, I think too, what really they do again a really good job in Last Crusade is again, I think we're smart in understanding that like the Nazis are very easy to root against. Number one,
Right.
at least, well, they should be, and the fact that again the Nazis are searching for some kind of weapon as they see it.
Yeah. Religious
They're so arrogant about that. Oh, we think we're so cool, and we're about to take over the world here, and we know everything.
They're literally burning books in this movie.
Well, yeah, they did that in real life.
Yeah.
And now we're doing it in this country. But so and then it just at the end, it's like, no, you're not so smart. Oh, you guys think you know everything, right? And he picks the wrong cup,
Yeah.
right? We think, oh well, we gotta have this one. This one's the prettiest, and well, and it's like I just think that's a great message too, being like, no,
Definitely.
yeah.
Should the series have ended here?
Yes, my opinion, yes.
I agree.
Much like season 5 of Supernatural, but we could do another.
I'll agree. That show did not
for
need to go 15 seasons, but
it doesn't have to go 25 seasons.
We should do a video. We should do a video where Alex and I just explain season 6 through 15 to Tim.
Hell no. I don't need to do that.
They fight God at the end, Tim. They fight God.
That's not necessary.
The only reason I feel that with Last Crusade, like that this should have been the perfect ending, is that it ends on the perfect shot. Like Indy, his dad, Sala, Marcus Brody riding off into the sunset.
I know.
Yeah.
Can't get much better than that.
Perfect ending. And then 2008 came along.
Yeah.
I was so excited for this movie.
So was I. I really was.
Because I think the concept of it, I think we were all like, wait, a fourth Indiana Jones movie? Like, fuck that. Like, it was all like anytime that happened, when something got rebooted back and like we were all like that with Batman Begins, we were all like that with Casino Royale. We were like, oh, these are gonna suck, and they ended up being really good.
Yeah, but this one wasn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the problem. This one wasn't. But I think for a while I was in denial because I was never like, okay, like I never said it's great. I always thought it was the weakest of the four, but I never thought it was like terrible. But I'm kind of going down that road now.
That and Temple are definitely the worst, for sure.
Hey, you shut your mouth about Temple. That is blasphemy. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah. Whoever was.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious that Steven Spielberg did this movie as a favor to George because George was his friend. There was a script that was written by Frank Darabont that Steven Spielberg loved, but George Lucas didn't like because George Lucas wanted to do the alien concept, which I'll say this about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's full of cool ideas, but most of the execution is piss poor.
Exactly. I think
95% of it, yeah.
For me, I appreciate what this movie tried to be.
Yeah.
I don't think it completely succeeded. I love the idea of setting Indiana Jones in the 50s, your post World War II. You got all the 50s like iconography. You got the Soviets as the bad guys. You got like the nuclear weapons. You got UFOs. You got like all sorts of these
like
different
everything
things
that defined the 50s.
Right. Yeah. It's like that's like really cool. Like there's just it could have been you got greasers in like a bar fight that were like it's I like that vibe they tried to go for. And for the first chunk of the movie, I'm like, besides a couple things, I'm like, oh, okay. But then I hit a point in the movie where the last time I watched it, I struggled finishing it because I was like,
that's my thing with 4. Like I think I fell asleep watching it this time. I was like, unlike the other 3, I would not go back and watch what I missed.
You fell asleep like you fell asleep watching Tenet, Alex?
Huh?
Did you fall asleep watching Kingdom of the Crystal Skull like you fell asleep during Tenet where you couldn't hear anything?
I didn't fall asleep during Tenet. You just couldn't hear anything. I agree. I think there is some good things in this movie. I think there's 1 or 2 action sequences that I think are good. I still think Harrison Ford brings it, especially as an older Indiana Jones.
That's true.
I think so.
I like that they brought back Marion Ravenwood and it was Karen Allen. The 50s, like aliens, the Soviets, that's all cool. But the filmmaking compared to the first 3 in this one is just nowhere up to par. Like, and it's so weird because everything looks like it's filmed on a soundstage, and it's not. It's all filmed on location. It's just the studio lights are cranked up to 100.
Is the jungle stuff?
Huh?
Is the jungle stuff location? Because that's like the worst place. Is
that
really
screen? No,
it looks like awful green screen.
That's all on location, dude. It's all the like oversaturation of the studio lights. Like I don't know what it was with Spielberg with this movie, and also I don't know if you guys noticed this in this movie. We've talked about how Indiana Jones is like really human, like how he escapes stuff by the skin of his teeth, and he's always getting hurt and all that. This movie, he's just really clean. Like
he survives a nuclear explosion.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That whole
should have been a pancake.
I don't care how much
jumps in a refrigerator
in that fridge. He would have been. All his bones would have been broken.
Yeah, he would have definitely not survived that.
This fell into the trap of like what mid 2000s action movies did. Especially if they were iconic.
What was it? What'd you say, Pat? What?
Live Free or Die Hard, where he fist fights a jet.
Yeah, that's stupid. That's where the movie goes downhill for me. That one too.
It falls into that trap where movies like Live Free or Die Hard did that with iconic franchises, where they would turn somebody from an iconic franchise who was a human being, a normal average person who was, in John McClane's case, wrong place, wrong time, but it would always get the shit kicked out of them. And the newest movie just turned them into a superhero. That's how I feel Indiana Jones is in this movie. And that's not a good thing.
Nope.
Also, I'm also not a fan. Like, okay, if they want to do aliens, do it, but do it with more subtlety. Don't go as far as to show on a flying saucer taking off.
Well,
I don't need flying saucers in an Indiana Jones movie.
I agree. I could deal with a mysterious alien-looking skull, but like a hint that it came from space or whatever. But we don't need to go so far as UFO.
It's kind of funny though watching Indy carry it the whole movie because it just looks like a styrofoam plastic thing. I mean, those are just my general thoughts. Like I'll probably get into more thoughts as we talk about this. Pat, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Crystal?
Like I was saying, I appreciated what the atmosphere it was trying to go for, the setting. I'm like, I could vibe with that. I like the idea that Indy during the 40s like was at Roswell and like that type of stuff. For World War II, he was doing like more later on in the war. Like that's cool. But like besides that, like I think it fails to be an exciting movie. I think once you get to like the jungle and you go down waterfall after waterfall after waterfall, it's just not like they survive 3 waterfalls easily, so it's not that scary. Like, and then the car chase in the jungle, Shia LaBeouf's swinging at the monkeys is another like, what are we doing here? Shia LaBeouf in general,
the Gophers too.
Mutt Williams was not a good idea. Like, if you're gonna pass the hat on to someone else, don't have it be an illegitimate son of Indiana's who's good at everything, who is a fencer and can sword fight Kate Blanchett on top of a moving vehicle. Like not great. And then all the other supporting characters are pretty terrible.
Dude, Mac is the worst character in Indiana Jones.
It looks like Kate Blanchett.
A triple agent.
It's not. He's not even a double agent. He's a triple agent, and his motivation is just money. I'm like, what?
Yep. I didn't like him. Kate Blanchett, as much as I love her, wasn't a great villain.
No, she wasn't. She did what she could with the role.
I actually heavily disagree with you, Alex, about Marion. I don't think she should have come back. No. I think that was solely for Mutt Williams. That was solely for Mutt Williams. That was to go, oh, look, it's his ex-flame, and now they're in love to the point where they get married at the end of this movie. I'm like, what? Like, I don't buy it. I think her actress is great in the first movie.
Karen Allen.
She is not good in this movie. The amount of time
she hasn't acted in like a long time. Dude, speaking of that ending though, those last 15 seconds gave me a heart attack in the theater. I was like, when Mutt Williams is going to pick up that hat, I was like, don't you fucking dare, man. And then Indy picks it up. I'm like, oh, thank God. I hate the character of Mac. John Hurt's character? What is it? Oxley?
I love John Hurt. He was a terrible character. That should have been someone we knew. That should have been.
What if that was Abner Ravenwood or something? Like a 9-year-old Abner Ravenwood?
Anyone. Like they act like we're supposed to know.
It could have been Ravenwood. He was dead. He died.
Yeah, Ravenwood's dead. Like anyone that we actually care about, like even Short Round, like anyone that we have any sort of relationship with, because you have to establish, oh yeah, Indy knows this guy and it's John Hurt. I'm like, and all this El Dorado and the City of Gold is kind of like, I'm like, the whole search in this movie just was not fun.
It's not interesting.
No.
And then and I spoke about the last 3 movies being so fast paced that they don't even feel like they're 2 hours. I said that they all feel like they're like 45 minutes to an hour. This movie feels like it's longer than 2 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's mostly because it's that section in the middle where it's just Indy and Mutt, like in the weird, I don't know, like if it's the indigenous, like that indigenous tribe, like they're in like that dark, it's definitely a like set where they find the crystal skull. Like that whole scene, I'm like, this feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I think if you were going to have a legacy character to take over, it would have been way more interesting for the audience if you brought back Short Round as an adult.
Yeah.
See what he's like, see what his relationship with Indiana is like. The whole son angle, was not on board, and they tried to be clever about it, like, "Oh, Mutt is a type of dog, and Indiana was named after the." I'm like, "That's stupid."
Yeah, we
Like,
named our dog
no,
Indiana.
I hate that. Like,
Yeah,
Shia LaBeouf, this was his time, okay? Transformers had just come out. He was a big
Mhm.
star.
yeah.
He could have been great in this movie, maybe, but, like, his
He
energy
wasn't.
doesn't work in this movie.
No,
Mhm.
no. I feel like he's just playing Sam Witwicky in this movie as a
But
Greek.
that no, if he was playing Sam Witwicky, that would have been better. But this guy wasn't nearly as
Optimus!
funny as Sam Witwicky.
Optimus!
Tim, we haven't really got your thoughts on this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, not many.
You don't even
I
remember
will.
it, do you?
I saw it only once in the theater, and when I really like a movie, I usually see it at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
Because I just love being in the movie theater. I love the whole just the setting of it.
yeah,
Um, I think they tried to do too much. Kind of like to kind of add on to both what you guys were saying. Um, Kind of what Pat was saying. I think up to a certain point in the film, you can kind of buy the story. I like the fact that
yeah.
made reference to Indiana Jones doing whatever in World War II. Like, so he fought the Nazis in Raiders. He fought the Nazis in Last Crusade. And he's like, okay, he was like a soldier in World War II or doing whatever. Like, that's all cool. I feel like they did the whole giving you the feeling of the 50s and the anxiety and the fear of nuclear war, all the, the spying and all this other stuff, pop culture stuff was good. Shia LaBeouf was a terrible casting choice.
Yeah.
Um, I felt like too, really the only person in the film that I thought did a really good job was Harrison. Uh,
Yeah, which
probably
everybody was worried about going in because it's like, oh, he's
um,
like he was what, like 65 when he filmed this?
you know, just probably because he's Harrison Ford. But
Yeah.
I think the whole alien thing was a disaster. I really do. At the end of the film,
I think it's a good concept, especially since it takes place in the 50s. It's just the
yeah,
execution of it
I
was
guess maybe it was the execution. I just remember seeing it for the first time, and there was like a certain point in the film that I was like, okay, I'm kind of getting into the story. But then when they brought aliens in, it just didn't feel like an Indiana Jones film anymore. It felt like
yeah.
a,
I
a,
agree.
a mix of what's the Close Encounters of the
Yeah.
third, a mix of like that, and
It felt like something George Lucas really wanted to do and Spielberg
yeah,
didn't.
but it just didn't feel like it just didn't feel like everybody was on board for it either. Like I felt like how like when a movie is really well done,
Yeah.
like you can tell like everyone was on board for this. The writers, the director, all the producers, whatever. But I never got that feeling of this film. I felt like it was kind of like not everybody was really on board. I agree with Pat. I think Marion coming back and then marrying each other is totally against the Indiana Jones character. He would not marry anybody, honestly. Even though him and Marion, like, okay, they were together when she was 14, whatever, and then they're together again.
I hope
Like,
it would have been older
I
than
hope
that.
it wasn't that young.
I hope not, but I'm just saying, okay, maybe she was 16, 17, okay, whatever. Okay, not cool, but that happened. Okay, and all of a sudden they're getting married. I felt like that was not believable. Them getting married at the end, just knowing the characters from the other films, and it just nothing to me felt like it made sense, just from the whole story perspective, and like Shia LaBeouf being almost like at the end there, oh, he could be the next Indiana Jones. I thought was a disaster on top of
Thank God,
Yeah, it's a
they didn't
scary
do
thought.
it though. Like I said, they gave me a heart attack, and then he
so
picks up his hat. I'm like, thank you.
I think what's hard for me is just like looking at how good, like we were talking before about how good Last Crusade is, and then the next film you're
And
like,
Temple.
no, Last Crusade is, and then going to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like what?
That's kind of what's got me worried about 5. But the mindset I have with 5 when it comes out next year is, as long as it's better than this one, I'll probably be happy. I
Yeah, as
don't.
long as it's better than Temple and
How
Crystal
dare
of the
you?
Skull. Uh, yeah, I just I don't know. Part of maybe 2008. I think maybe I had my hopes really high. I
Yeah.
remember. I mean, I
Well,
remember I was.
the trailers weren't bad.
Yeah, and I remember. Well, Pat and I can tell you about trailers that make movies look really good, and then they're terrible, like X-Men 3. But
or trailers that make movies look really bad, man.
they said that they're cure us, and I say we are the cure. Like X-Men 3: Last Stand looked like it was gonna be the best freaking movie ever made. And
That trailer was unbelievable. I love that trailer.
Spider-Man 3's trailer too.
Spider-Man 3's trailer, yeah, but at least that movie wasn't X-Men 3 bad.
Spider-Man 3 was bad, but it wasn't X3 Last Stand.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Because you had the molester on there, Brett Ratner making the film. So, was this? Yeah, I don't know if they waited too long. Maybe it was like too long. Also, too, it feels so when you watch the original trilogy and then you watch Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it just seems like it's so detached from the other ones.
I agree.
It's like they should have made that in like the mid '90s if they were going to make.
I agree. Because when you think about it, Raiders was 81, Temple was 84, Crusade was 89.
I know. So it's almost 20 years.
Yeah, it's 19.
They waited in between.
I did like that continuity though, where it was like, okay, it was 19 years since we had an Indiana Jones movie, so the story jumped 19 years. You know?
Yeah, that's
okay. Fine. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now what are they going to do? Because now it's
jump ahead another 20 years.
I think from what I've heard with
the 70s, they're going to be the 1970s.
I think they're going to do the late 60s or early 70s to match up with Harrison's age.
So is Harrison going to be in Vietnam or something?
I don't know. I don't know. But before we get into a little bit of 5 and what we know about 5, I'm just going back to 4 for me. I think there's some fun to be had. I like it's not a great action sequence, but I like the action sequence in Area 51. I like that it's confirmed that that's where the Ark of the Covenant was taken, even though we don't need to see the Ark of the Covenant, and they show it. The action scene that starts in the bar with Indy on the back of Mutt Williams' motorcycle, that's actually fun because it's actually a different type of Indiana Jones action sequence because it's not Indiana Jones in like his Indiana Jones attire. It's like him in his Professor Jones attire. But I want to bring up one thing, though. There's a big continuity error in this movie, and it's a small one that everybody's going to be like, who the fuck cares? But did you notice that the name of the college changed in this one?
No.
I think in the originals it was Barnett College, and in this one it's Marshall College.
Maybe he works at a different college.
If you work at a different college, it's 20
But it
years
looks
later.
the same. That's the problem.
And don't they have a Marcus Brody statue?
They have a Marcus Brody statue that gets decapitated.
That's just disrespectful.
Yeah.
That actor's probably dead.
Yeah, he was dead at this point.
Well, that's just another reason why I hate the film. I mean, like you can't just disrespect characters.
Yeah,
like
and then it's like, oh, we're gonna kill off. Like I get it, because Sean Connery was in retirement, he didn't want to come back. So it's like, but we're gonna
pay the man money to come back. Pay him as much as he wants.
Or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen shouldn't have been so awful, and he wouldn't have retired to begin with.
I don't blame him for not coming back. He's probably embarrassed by.
Yeah, he's probably like, this script has stupid aliens in it. It sucks.
I got paid $25 million. But
it wasn't enough. I think there's enjoyments, I think, in sporadic moments throughout the film.
Not much.
It's not much. I'm not going lower than a C-, even though the production value is nowhere near as good. I do think that there are a couple action sequences that are good, that bring it up a little bit. Harrison Ford's good, and there's some concepts that I think are good concepts, but it's an Indiana Jones movie. Those good concepts have to be great concepts, So I'm going to go C- on this. Pat, what are you going to go?
I would have given it a little bit higher a few years ago, but in the 2 times I probably watched it, I'd probably give it a D.
Yeah.
My recent rewatches haven't been.
It goes down on every rewatch, unfortunately. Yeah, and it was a movie where I was like, I liked it when I first saw it. I mean, I acknowledged it was the worst one, but it was one where I was like, all right, yeah, that was passable, but now it's kind of like, nah. Yeah. Tim, you going D- F on this?
I'm gonna say D minus. I think, yeah, it's just. I think for what we've been talking about, I think the Indiana Jones franchise, because it's not a trilogy anymore, the franchise, it's set a certain bar. I
Yeah,
think for what you're expecting out of an Indiana Jones film, and this film just didn't really hit any of those markers or bars for me. I think there was a lot to be left to be desired in the film. I agree with both of you. I think there were some great concepts, but it's very poorly executed. Everything seemed kind of all over the place, and it just kind of seemed like at the end they didn't really know what kind of movie they wanted to be. They didn't know if they wanted to be a sci-fi movie or they wanted to be, an Indiana Jones action adventure movie. It's like I feel like there's a certain point in the film where it's like they have no idea what they're really going for.
right.
I think part of the film, what kills it is like they they try to play off that nostalgia from like the older films,
Hmm.
and then so they kind of like gets you into a certain point where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, of course, I remember how great I love the old films and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
But then like at the end, you're like, wait a minute, they tricked me. This isn't a real Indiana Jones
right.
movie.
Yeah, there's too many. There's too many monkeys,
Oh,
gophers,
sons
and
of bitches.
fridges.
Or the weird, like, they tried to still have, like, the snake or rat scene with the
Yeah,
fire ants.
yeah, that was stupid. That was just stupid.
I do like that fight with the big Russian guy. That's not a bad. That's not a
Well,
bad.
you got to have a big fight with some big guy in the movies. I
Yeah,
mean, do they
yeah,
have that in Temple of Doom? No, probably
yeah. They
not.
did.
Oh yeah, they
He
did.
fought the big thuggy guard.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was not
Yeah.
memorable.
How
Just like
dare
the whole movie wasn't memorable.
you? So I guess we can get into a little bit of 5, even though it hasn't been released yet. Not going to be directed by Steven Spielberg.
Ooh, big problem. I have a huge problem with that. Huge problem.
I had a problem.
Huge problem. Huge.
I had
Did
a
I
problem
say
with that
huge? I
until I
meant
heard
huge.
who took over.
Who took over?
James Mangold. So he did like Logan,
I don't care.
Wolverine, 310 to Yuma, Walk the Line.
He's
He's
not
a great,
Steven Spielberg.
great director.
Yeah,
He's a great director. When he's co-writing it too. He's a pretty good writer too. But it does have me a little bit worried that Spielberg is not directing it, because I'm a little bit worried with what's been rumored. I'm a little bit worried because it's like, oh,
what's the rumors?
Mads Mikkelsen apparently is playing like some like Nazi scientist in
What?
like the late 60s, early 70s, and there's
NASA at NASA or something?
I don't know, but there's rumors that it's going to be a time travel movie, and they're going to de-age Harrison Ford for a portion.
Oh hell no! I hope not.
And so one of the rumored titles, because it's bringing back the Nazis,
Indiana Jones: Back to the Future.
Indiana Jones and the Empire of Evil.
Oh my God, no! Oh my God! Don't tell me this.
But then.
Please, you're lying, right, Alex? You're lying. This is all a lie.
No,
this is all revenge because you hate Temple.
Like somebody on Reddit thought like they saw a leak of the title, and they literally went on Twitter and was like, "I think I discovered the title of Indiana Jones 5, and it's Indiana Jones
that's
Empire of Evil." And then
Mangold,
and then James Mangold was like, "No, that's false." But I'd rather that title over Indy. Because everybody's like, oh, it's called Indy because that's what it says on the production hats.
So no, there's working titles in every movie.
Exactly.
Star Wars was called Blue Harvest, okay? I mean,
yeah.
That doesn't mean it's going to be called Indy. I mean,
it's definitely not going to be called Empire of Evil. That has the same vibes as like the sequel trilogy when everyone was like, "Oh, the next movie is called like Dark Side Ascending" or whatever. It's like,
that ain't going to happen. They're not going to have Indiana
Jones. Force Awakens,
the
Last Jedi from his nap.
Think about it. They're not going to have Indiana Jones and the Evil Empire or Empire of Evil. They're not going to have that shit. That ain't going to happen.
I mean, I don't know. If the concepts of what's rumored is true, I think it's going to be a disaster.
Well, I mean, you can't time travel. I mean, come on, we've already
done
that
Indiana Jones
times.
Yeah.
Well, probably because they're like, oh, it's going to be easier if Harrison, we like de-age him with the computer and have him.
Well, Harrison's 80 years old now and he can't do his stunts, but.
Oh God, he was,
Yeah.
Born in the whatever, I think he was alive in World War I.
I'm not going to be too worried about Harrison because I was that
He'll
way.
Be fine.
when they were doing the fourth one, I'm like, he's too old, and now it's like 15 years later. He's still too old, but he'll still probably be good.
He was too old to come back as Han Solo, for Christ's sake.
No, Han Solo, I was like,
he was great.
He needs to sit in the cockpit and shoot
he
a
was
blaster.
great as Han Solo. Yeah, he was great coming back as Han Solo.
Indy's a much more physical role, so that's the only concern.
Yeah. I really hope that that's not true. I mean,
I hope
we do
not.
have. I mean, for cast, we do have obviously Harrison Ford. Antonio Banderas is going to be playing like an ally of Indiana Jones. So I hope it's not. I hope we don't have another Max situation.
What are we gonna have? The Legend of Zorro and Indiana Jones team up with each other?
Dude, I would kill to see a movie where his character from Mask of Zorro is in
crossover.
No.
No.
Can we say no? No way. No good.
Mads Mikkelsen, the genius, that's in every franchise now. God bless the man. He's going to be playing the villain.
He's always the villain. Is he the guy whose his eye bleeds?
Yeah, the chief. Yeah, Casino Royale. Yeah, he's also
a good villain.
Caecilius in Doctor Strange.
I wish they had Jack Nicholson as the villain. I think that'd be better.
You have Phoebe Waller-Bridge as the main female lead.
I don't know her. I don't think.
I don't know if you've seen Fleabag. She's in that. Who else? Hold on, let me pull up the cast list. Hold on.
They're not gonna have Amber Heard as the main role.
Oh fuck!
No, gonna can of worms.
She's the main villain of her own life.
Sorry, I like to just throw a grenade in the conversation every once in a while. I love you, Johnny.
Yeah, so you
Pirates of the Caribbean, baby.
Yeah, so you have Harrison Ford, obviously, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Mads Mikkelsen, Thomas Kretschmann, Boyd Holbrook.
Freeze! Thomas Kretschmann's in this movie?
Who's that?
Like King Kong, Thomas Kretschmann?
Ulysses Claw. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. This sounds bad.
You're thinking of
Von Strucker. Yeah.
Von Strucker. I was like,
this sounds bad. This sounds bad.
Thomas Kretschmann is amazing. He's probably playing a Nazi.
Is he the German guy in every movie?
He's a German in the
You saw Wanted, right?
No, Tim saw The Pianist, and he's in there.
Oh yeah. I see. I know who he is. Yeah, he's the guy at the end who helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. He's actually he's good. I mean, he's fine.
Valkyrie as well.
Yeah, he's good in that too. Yeah.
You have Boyd Holbrook, who is the bad guy, like the main Reaver guy in Logan, the one with the bionic arm that I thought looked like Draco Malfoy.
Donald Pierce. Yeah.
Is Donald Glover in this?
He is not.
Dang it.
Dobby is in it.
What's his name?
Toby Jones. Yeah, the guy who plays Solo. Yeah.
So we're going to be going to the Harry Potter universe. We tried the Aliens and Indiana Jones. Now we're going to do Harry Potter and Indiana Jones.
So the Nazis, or at least Germans, are definitely in this movie because Toby Jones is famous for playing a German in Captain America, and Thomas Kretschmann is just a famous German. So we're definitely getting some sort of
Yeah, all these roles that I just mentioned, other than Harrison Ford, of course, we don't know their roles in the movie yet. Except we know that Mads Mikkelsen's the villain, but we don't know who he's playing. We don't know who anything else is.
When's it coming out?
June 30th of next year. 2023.
It's only a year away.
Well, it was supposed to be this year.
So have they filmed it all, or no?
They already commenced filming. Like, filming's already done. Like, they finished filming in February.
Damn.
Yeah.
So, I hope there's no DeLorean that comes in that Indiana Jones opens the door and says, "Who's the president of 1985?" I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, directed by James Mangold, written by Jez and John Henry Butterworth and James Mangold.
It's going to be a disaster, guys. I'm sorry. I can already tell. Without Steven Spielberg, imagine a Jaws film without Steven Spielberg. Oh yeah, that's right. We already had.
There are 3 of them without Spielberg.
Imagine, a Jurassic Park without Steven Spielberg. Have you noticed they're not as good? Has anybody noticed that?
I don't like Lost World. I got into this with Alex.
I don't think Lost World is great, but the first Jurassic Park is good.
I don't think it's terrible, but it's
not good either.
I'm gonna bring up
right in the middle of it.
I'm gonna bring up my controversial opinion again, Tim. Jurassic Park 3 is better than The Lost World. I will
You
die,
cannot hate me for liking Temple of Doom
die on that hill.
I don't hate you. I just totally disagree with you.
now.
No, I just this fact that Spielberg is not involved, it rubs me
He's
the wrong.
involved. He's
It
involved.
rubs me the wrong way. No, but
He's producing it.
well, that's not the same as the director. That ain't the same, son. So
He's
you
just
say,
involved.
yeah. So he's gonna what is he gonna be on the sidelines? Hey,
Well,
James.
George Lucas isn't involved,
Well,
which
that's
might be
okay.
a good thing.
That's okay. It's time for him to just call it quits. The whole, the oh hey, just here's what we got to do, Anakin. Like I'm tired of his whole, great stuff, George. We love you.
You're
You gave
tired.
us Star
You're
Wars.
tired of George Lucas's stuff. He hasn't been making movies in like 15 years.
Yeah, we're good with your stuff. Let's put it in
He
the hands of the
retired
adults
pretty
now.
much. He's
Let's
gone.
put it in the hands. Let's put your stuff in the hands of the adults now, George. Okay?
Yeah, but I mean, what really scares me about Indy 5 is the fact that the script has been like written and gone through so many different hands. Like there's been like 5 or 6 different drafts from 5 or 6 different writers.
That's not good.
Listen, Dan
Have
Aykroyd.
they gone through small hands?
Dan Aykroyd wrote like 50 scripts for Ghostbusters 3, all right? And eventually we got Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is great. So there's a chance it won't matter and it'll still be good. Also, brief aside, Dan Aykroyd is in Temple of Doom, therefore it goes up half a letter grade.
Wait, who is he in Temple of Doom?
He's the guy who shows up on the plane at the beginning.
Awesome.
Dan Aykroyd?
Yeah.
That's Dan Aykroyd.
He's in Temple of Doom?
Temple of Doom.
Know that?
Temple of Doom. See, I told you it's an A+.
No. Now it's a D plus instead of a D minus.
Listen, if Harold Ramis had also been one of the pilots of the plane, then maybe it would have gone up even more.
Yeah, ain't no.
I do think I remember that now, because I think when I watched it like a month ago, I was like, "Is that Dan Aykroyd?"
Aykroyd.
Yeah.
So
Known for
Lily is
being
not in the film. Are you telling me Indiana Jones? Lily's not in the new one.
Who?
Lily.
Oh,
Lily.
Lily?
She's not in the new one.
No, but
Oh, there we go. It goes down to Earth. It goes down.
no,
It goes
but
down right
this
there.
went through a few different hands for writing. Like the guy who wrote Kingdom of the Crystal Skull originally was going to write this,
Thank God he didn't.
but he also wrote Spider-Man, the original one, with
Oh.
Tobey Maguire. So he's written good stuff, but he's written bad stuff too.
Yep.
Yeah,
I just think I'm concerned because it's like having
I need to see a trailer before,
Well, but then trailers though are deceiving, Alex. I mean, you get really good. Like we've said this already.
They're probably not going to show anything. Like the Force Awakens trailers didn't show anything.
No, it'll be like a teaser where we have Indy. He's like, "Are we ready?" And I'll be like,
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. The second we see a shadow with a fedora and we hear dun dun dun, I'm in. I'm fucking in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like no matter the quality, we're all gonna go see it.
Hell yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna see it. I'm gonna pay the $8 for the popcorn and see it. I mean,
And the $20 for a ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I'll see it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to be open-minded because it's got to be better than King of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, I think at this point anything has to be better than Kingdom. That's all I'm asking for Indy 5. Like, you don't have to be as good as the original 3, but as long as it's better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
yeah,
I'll be satisfied.
As long as it's better than Temple and King of the Crystal Skull. As long as we're outside every once in a while, unlike
as long as you like making my life miserable by saying it's better than Temple of
As long as we get outside and get some fresh air in the movie,
How shocked would you be, Tim, in the theater of this movie, of the 5th one, if it seems like the Nazis are the villains and then Bolaram shows up?
Oh my God, I would hate that shit.
That'd be awesome.
I think it would be great if they here's the Nazis and they're gonna storm the Capitol building. Like what happened in real life, like kind of do like a quick thing, like the Nazis.
I feel like they're gonna kind of do what like those like Wolfenstein video games did, whereas maybe they'll do like an alternate history. Like,
are those the Nazi zombies, or is that a different game? I'm thinking.
Oh, that's like a different game where there's like an alternate history where the Nazis won World War II, and then like the games take place in the '60s, and like you have to take down the Nazi regime in the '60s. So I don't know if that's what they're gonna go for, but
when I see the trailer, the teaser, even I'm all with you guys. There's there's time travel in this. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
redeemable.
I don't think I want time travel in an Indiana
I
Jones.
want like,
If they can
hey,
pull it
Doc
off,
Brown.
fine, but
I mean, you got you friggin' Michael J.
well,
Fox
well,
and
that
Doc
was
Brown coming out of the
that
DeLorean, and
was
he's like,
like
"Hey, Indy, let's go back to
well, that was
1942."
like remember like back in the day when everybody thought Rise of Skywalker was gonna have time travel.
Oh,
And it was like, oh, the third act's going to take place on Maz Kanata's pirate ship, and Ezra Bridger's going to show up.
oh God.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to be optimistic just
Yeah.
because the whole world is going to hell. So it's kind of like we need an Indiana Jones movie right now.
We just need like a fun escapism movie. That's why Doctor Strange is great.
we need Indy to be like, here we go, and because that's
Indy
what we
will
need.
single-handedly punch the pandemic in the air and kill it.
The world
Benedict
needs
Cumberbatch
Indiana
in
Jones.
this movie. You brought up Doctor Strange. Like Benedict Cumberbatch would fit in Doctor.
He
he
would. He would fit in definitely in an Indiana Jones movie.
I think Guardians of the Galaxy would too. Just put those guys in there. Like that's what they were trying for. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, connect the sci-fi and the whole action.
Since I do think Temple is as good as the other two in the original trilogy, as Thanos once said, perfectly balanced as all things should.
No, Alex, it's balanced because 1 and 3 are great.
There you go. Yeah, 2 out of 3. Was that 66%? I don't know math that well. I'm a history teacher, so.
All right.
Do the math.
All right, so that's gonna wrap up our talk on Indiana Jones. It was great to have you guys to talk Indiana Jones. Glad we kind of got into a little bit of a squabble. That was fun.
A little.
They're just no matter what you think about the quality of these movies, Temple, whatever.
Way lower than the other two.
No matter what, like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a terrible movie, but it's one of the most interesting movies, like bad movies to talk about because it's bad.
I'm just glad we've come to the agreement that Tomorrow Never Dies is superior to World's
No, fuck that.
You know what we gotta do? We gotta do next time.
You can't even put Tomorrow Never Dies on the 60th anniversary calendar. World's Not Enough is there.
Oh my!
It doesn't say anything.
So much better of a friggin' plot. World's Not Enough is just, I got kidnapped and now I like my kidnapper.
Yeah, that's gross. That's gross and much. It's a darker Bond. It's gross. Okay, we'll get
really.
Hold on. We already got into this.
Hold on. A kidnapper is darker than starting World War III? I don't think so.
Stockholm syndrome, yeah.
Oh, for God's sake!
Mr. Stamper gunned down like 20 people in the water.
Put in Max Zorin.
That's pretty dark. Okay.
Put in Max Zorin.
Just for the media.
Max Zorin did it first.
Yes, Max Zorin is a better villain than Bernard.
You know what? I think we should do. We should do the Ghostbusters films.
I'd be down. Well,
so Alex and I,
2016 one.
Alex and I were going to do that in October, and I'm going to force him to watch Answer the Call to be able to talk about it. So if you want in on that, Tim, you're also going to have to watch
Answer You're welcome to join us.
Fine. Well, okay. Are you going to watch it together?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet, Alex. Have you watched it?
No,
I've only seen 1, 2, and Afterlife.
So I know this is going to go on the internet. I think we all should bake some cookies for that that showing of Ghostbusters 2016. So I haven't watched
my expectations are Chris Hemsworth is going to be the best part, and that's it.
Yeah, I've seen scenes from it, and he's definitely not the best part because there is no best part from that film. But I will be watching it with you guys. If we can all watch it together, maybe do something fun beforehand before we all lose our souls.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to do the Ghostbusters films because I'm a huge fan of Ghostbusters 1, 2, and Afterlife. So
2 is so underrated. Not as good as 1, but underrated.
Yeah, it's definitely better than Temple of Doom if you're looking at like sequels. Yeah, if you're looking at sequels. You're looking at sequels. It's a lot better if you just look at like original 2 sequel. I mean, it's still Ghostbusters, right? Like you still feel like it's a Ghostbusters movie. Where you watch
Temple of Doom still feels like an Indiana Jones.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't feel like any of the other films at all. You got the whole "I'm gonna rip your heart out of your
heart, man."
I'm gonna
if
rip your heart out of your ass.
Janos,
That is not like the other 2 films or 3 films. Excuse me.
if Janos from Ghostbusters 2 was in Temple of Doom, it was like his name is Balaram. Like that, that would have made it better because he made Vigo so much better.
He's like, Lenny, where are you from? I'm from the Upper West Side.
No, what if the sequel to Afterlife does Vigo?
They should have.
They hope they can't, man. He's gone. He died in that other one. They could do another painting.
Explode. He just flat out exploded.
They'll find a way to bring him back.
No, but
they're not going to do that.
If you look at sequels, Ghostbusters 2 is a higher quality, keeps the franchise going better than in Temple of Doom. Thank God for Last Crusade. It saved Indiana Jones franchise, honestly, from just ruin.
I have to.
Indiana Jones.
I have to chime in.
Because
I have to chime in too. Your argument is Ghostbusters 2 kept the franchise alive when Ghostbusters didn't have a movie for like 20 years.
Yeah, true.
The video game was the unofficial Ghostbusters 3.
True that. That is true.
Yeah.
Can't argue that one.
The World Is Not Enough kept the Bond franchise alive. How about that? It was the last serious one before Die Another Day came.
The World's Not Enough set up Die Another Day to happen. So no, thank you.
I blame World Is Not Enough for Die Another Day.
All right. So that's going to wrap up our video of somehow all topics. Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at this Pat guy, talking a lot about different movies right now, especially Doctor Strange, where I'm battling the hordes over the controversies. So it's been fun.
Tim, you got any social medias?
I have a Facebook.
Don't give people your Facebook.
I don't have a Facebook. I used to. I got rid of it. You can find me on no social media platforms because I'm.
It's like you can find me here sometimes.
You can find me here because I'm a guest speaker and I love coming on here, just to share my knowledge with all of you out there in the world.
Hold on. I got a question for you. If you think Temple of Doom is not an Indiana Jones movie,
I didn't say it wasn't. I just.
Does that mean No Time to Die isn't a Bond movie because Bond dies?
No. That's not what I'm saying.
You didn't say Temple of Doom wasn't an indie movie. You said it was a not great indie movie.
It doesn't have the same feel, the same heart, the same anything.
Indie, cover your heart. Cover your heart.
Cover your heart. Cover your heart. I mean, it's not the same vibe. It's not the same feeling.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
Oh.
I'm in the middle.
Alex is probably the guy who likes Godfather 3 better than the other.
No, I hate God. I can't get through Godfather 3. I haven't like the 4K box set came with like the newer cut of it, like the Godfather Coda. Haven't watched it yet. I'm like, I don't care.
Because Godfather 1 and 2 they're a lot better. That's why.
Godfather 2 is too long though. I'll say that.
No,
I prefer Godfather 1.
The Batman was too long.
It was. I agree. It was.
Well, Return of the King extended cut is too long. That's about 6.5 hours long. Okay, that's too
Return
long.
of the King.
Final question for Alex. Godfather 2 or Temple of Doom?
Oh, you better say the right answer.
Obviously,
I will not come back on this program if you answer this a certain way.
I am gonna go Godfather 2.
I'm confused. What? Can you say that one more time?
I was trying to throw you off, Tim. It's Godfather 2.
Oh, thank God. There is some light at the end.
That's one of the best sequels ever made, but so isn't Temple of Doom. So
is Empire's. Oh. Hold on. I know we're running out of time here. Okay, hold on. You're telling me that Temple of Doom ranks up there with Empire Strikes Back? It ranks up there with.
Yes. No, I'm just doing this to piss you off.
It ranks up there with Dark Knight?
No, it's not as good as Dark Knight.
Well, you just said it's one of the best sequels of all time.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know.
Oh.